Hi guys, welcome to part 2 of our straight gown or kaftan gown. So in this part, I'll show you how I cut the collar, the pattern work, and how I join the bodies together. And please, the video won't be detailed because I wasn't able to film most of the processes because of storage and time. Hi guys, my name is Fatima A. Yusuf, and on this platform I share sewing tutorials, and if this is something you like to learn, let's get to it. So in part 1 we cut the sleeves, right, and the bodies, and I also cut the asymmetric neckline, right? Please watch the part 1 before you watch this. So remember in part 1 I told you guys that I increased the neckline depth to 6, so I measured what I have here for the straight line is 6 inches, right? And I'm going to measure this curvy line, yeah. So remember in part 1 I said it's better to just take a slant line instead of this curvy one, and I said I will talk about it. So I measure what I have here. I'm going to write it down, my lining. So for the curvy part I had 9.5, and then for the straight one I had 6, right? So you take note of that. Now this is the piece I'm going to be using for my collar out of the pieces I cut out from the body. So I'm just going to fold. You fold in such a way, you fold in the right face, the wrong face will be facing you after folding. So the wideness depends on how wide you want it to be. So we are not doing a full collar, right? We are making the sides of normal collar, excluding the back. So I don't know what's the name. I don't know what it's called, but that's what we're working with, and we're doing two layers for both sides. So I measured the length I wanted. It was more than 4. At this down part I measured that what we go and measure the straight line, which was 6. Then I added 1 inch, right? So that's what I did. So at the closed part I'm going to impute same thing. I'm going to impute 7 inches. So after marking that 7 inches at the upper part, I'm going to add 4 more inches. It just depends on how wide, will I say long you want the edge to be. You know, there will be a slant line at the edge, so it depends on how wide you want it to be. So I used 4 for mine. So I'll just take that 4 to meet that 7 inches that is at the unclosed part, that's the down part. Just use a slant line to take it. So you've like created that side part of the collar or the leaf part of the collar, you understand? So that's what I did here. So I'll just go ahead and cut it off, right? So I measured the width I wanted, and on that part that is not closed I measured what I got when I measured the neckline. I added 1 inch. I did same thing on the upper part, then I added 4 inches. Then I took that 4 inches to meet the 7 inches that is at the down part, right? So that's all I did here. I'll just go ahead and cut out my piece, and I'll just go ahead and cut it out. Then now after doing this I'm going to cut the curvy part on, right? So same thing with what we did. I didn't have a clip for that. So same thing what we did, what we measured earlier for the curvy part, I added 1 inch. So why I said you should do a slant line is it will actually work with this when you just do it and add 1 inch. But if you're doing a curvy part, like curvy line like mine, please add about 3 to 4 inches to the unclosed part though. I added 4, created my slant line, and this is it, right? So these two are for the first layer of the collar. So now the second layer is meant to be shorter. So I decided to make it shorter about like 1 inch. So I measured 3 inches for the length of the second layer. This is it. I cut for both sides, right? So like I said, when you're cutting for the curvy part, in case you're following my own curvy line that I made for the asymmetric neckline, please don't add 1 inch. Add about 3 or 4. It's better for it to be too much than for it to be too to not be enough, you understand? But if you're using a slant line, you just measure, add 1 inch, and you're good to go. So this is it. We have cut for the 2 sides, and then I said to use sample lace for 1 part of each. What I did was I just cut out same way I cut out this on sample lace. So I did it for the straight line, I did it for the first layer, while the curvy line on I did it for the second layer. So it depends on what you want to do, and you can leave it like this as well. So now what to do is how to stitch it. So since the upper part is closed, all we need to do is stitch the sides, that slanty side. That's the only thing you're stitching. I'll use 0.5 inch to stitch that. So you don't need to stitch the down part because you're still stitching it to your body, to the neckline on your body. So this was after stitching, turning, and ironing. So that's the sample lace I used. You can actually just do anything when it comes to this part, you know, just be creative, freestyle. So now this is what I'm going to do. You can actually use the sandwich method All right, but I just decided to do it this way. So I'll open my front piece to the right face, and I'm going to stitch the collar, or the end of the collar to it like this. So I'll place the first layer there, and I'll place the second layer on it, right? So if you have office pin, please use it to hold them down. I'll do the same thing for the other side. So please remember, if you're doing a curvy neckline like this, mine around this part, this your collar, you should add 3-4 inches, please, because mine, I added one and it was there was like a little bit of fold, it's curvy, not straight. So definitely you'll be needing more than what you actually measured. So I just went ahead and stitched it in this direction, right? So for the curvy one, you not stitch from the shoulder, you stitch from your neckline. That's why you stitch and take it up to the shoulder side so that it will be so that it's going to align. So after doing that, I'll now place my lining on it and stitch it. I'll use my lining to turn the neckline the way you normally stitch your lining to your fabric. So I did that for front piece, and this is the back piece also. So I stitched the neckline that's down the two sides using 0.5 inch. I'll just go ahead and iron it. After giving it a good press, this is what I have. As you can see that zipper bulging. You see what the effect is giving, right? So we are good. Then that piece I cut out for pleats, I'm going to stitch. Now I use a loose stitch to where my zip will start, from where my zip will start to where it will stop. Then for where my zip will stop, I'll top stitch and use a tie stitch down to where my pleat will start from. Top stitch and then use a loose stitch to the end of the fabric. And I'll just go ahead and pleat this additional fabric. I'm going to leave a link in my description box. It will take you to how to create the pleats. I did it on a skirt, so the same thing you are just going to do over here. Sorry, I'd have loved to actually explain it here, but I didn't have enough space and there was no time. So I'll just put a link in the description box. Please go and watch so that you know how to make pleats. Actually, it's kissing pleats, I think. Yeah. So you just go watch the video, it's more better there. Then now create pattern. So I have a plain board here, you get a thick paper. So I have this my bowl, I'll just use it to create a circle, right? So you can use any paper, but you can use a lighter paper, use something that is thick, you understand? So I just form a circle. After forming circle, right, so I'll now be using my masking tape. I'll just use it to form some shapes like this, and we have this looking like this, right? So after doing that, I also did a smaller one. So I basically did 3 styles. Yeah, so just you can be creative with the pattern. You can create any pattern. In case your fabric has a nice pattern, you can use your fabric pattern, but mine didn't really have a pattern I can remove, so I decided to just create something, you understand? So I did this is the second one. I did a third one, I didn't film it, so I'll just cut it out, right? And after cutting, I'm going to cut it out on my Ankara fabric, on the pieces I have left. I use my pen to trace it on them. So this is the third one I made. So I cut them out after using pen to trace it on the fabric. I just cut them out and I stitched them to the lining, and after stitching I still had to trim them, and then I made a notch. I cut out a pieces on the lining so I'll be able to turn it outward, and you can as well use gum stay, right, so it can stand firm. So this is it. I just went ahead to arrange them the way I want them to be. You can also be creative when you get to this part, you just do your thing differently and it will be nice. So after arranging it, you can use office pin to hold them down. When doing yours, I would advise you actually stitch your pattern to the front piece before turning your fabric with the lining. I actually forgot to do that. That was why I did mine after lining, but for neatness, you are going to hide the stitches inward so it's not going to show at you the wrong face of your fabric on your line, you understand? So while stitching, all I did was I created a circle with my pen, and then I just stitched round on all and I stoned it, and this is what it's giving, right? So this is it. So this my own stitches, right, showed on the lining. So but if you do yours before your lining, it's going to look perfect. So for the sleeve, I hemmed the down of the sleeve first, right? Then I added 3 pieces, the bigger ones 3 pieces. Then I added 2 smaller ones to it. That's what I did for the sleeve at the end. That's why I told you when you're measuring the length of your sleeve, you should consider the pattern you'll be adding, so you should know what to make use of. For the length of your sleeve, after doing that, is just to join the bodies together. All you need to do is divide your bust measurement by 2, measure it at the bust line. You know, the remaining allowance, you know how to divide it so that you take one to the left, one to right. And then when you get to the waist, also divide it by two, and then you measure it. Then you know the allowance you be keeping on both sides. Then on the hip also same thing. You know, I told you guys that the allowance I had left was more than 2 inches because I added 1.5 is allowance, right? So I took it straight down from the hip down. I hemmed the down part of my gown. But in case you're using lining to turn yours, there won't be need to hem the down part. Then for the sleeve, I just stitch in this direction slightly to meet the bust stitch. So that's all I did for this gown. So I hem the down part of mine, but if you're using lining, you don't need to hem. So guys, this was the final result. You can see what that color gives, right? Yes, I can see the pattern work and the stoning. So this was it on me. You can see that zipper bulging that we did, that we removed. So guys, thank you for watching. If this video has been helpful in one way or the other, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and turn on your notification bell. And I'm going to see you guys in another video.